Trump threatens to sue Wall Street Journal over publishing a story about an alleged off-color letter written by him to Jeffrey Epstein that featured drawing of a naked woman.
Details of more than 10 Britons, including spies and special forces, included in a massive data breach involving thousands of Afghans, says UK media reports.
Heavy monsoon rain across Pakistan's Punjab province killed at least 63 people, injured nearly 300 in the past 24 hours, bringing the nationwide death toll from rain to at least 159 since late June.
US House has approved the Genius Act establishing the first federal framework for dollar-backed stablecoins sent to President Trump for signature. The bill mandates reserve backing and transparency, marking a major step towards crypto regulation.
Now, after days of violence, Syrian troops have quit Druze heartland Sweda.
This according to Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. 594 people have been killed in these clashes since Sunday.
Interim President Ahmad al-Shara said that community leaders would resume security in Sweda based on what he described as supreme national interests.
Now, the Syrian presidency has accused Druze fighters in Sweda of violating the ceasefire that led to the withdrawal of government forces. It also warned against Israeli interference in Syria's internal affairs.
This after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Israel has established a clear policy of demilitarization of the area in Syria south of Damascus,
and added that Israel will continue to protect the Druze. Furthermore, he said that the ceasefire was reached through strength and not by begging or making requests.
We have set forth a clear policy, demilitarization of the region south of Damascus, from the Golan Heights and to the Druze mountain area. That's number one. Number two is protecting the Druze in the Druze mountain. This is a ceasefire that was reached through strength. Not by making requests, not by begging, but through strength. We are reaching peace through strength, quiet through strength, security through strength, on 7 fronts. That will also be our policy going forward.
Now, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan accused Israel of using the Druze minority in Syria as a pretext for expanding into the war-torn country.
Israel has expanded its banditry to neighboring Syria over the past 2 days by using the Druze as an excuse. I want to state this once again, clearly and unequivocally. Israel does not recognize the law. It is an unruly, unprincipled, spoiled, pampered, and reckless terrorist state. At this point, Israel's aggression is the biggest problem in our region.
Now, Erdogan added that Turkey will not allow Syria to be divided, and those who dream of dividing Syria will not achieve their goals.
We did not consent to the division of Syria yesterday, and we certainly will not consent to it today or tomorrow. Those who dream of damaging the territorial integrity of Syria, of opening a corridor between especially the south and north, God willing, will not be able to achieve their goals.
At the UN Security Council, Syrian ambassador to the United Nations condemned Israel's military intervention and called strikes an extension of the occupation.
Syria categorically rejects the pretext used by the Israeli authorities to justify these acts of aggression. We affirm that such practices are merely an extension of the occupation's systematic policies aimed at undermining Syria's stability and dragging it into conflict.
Now, the Council called on both the countries to uphold the terms of the 1974 Disengagement of Forces Agreement.
In addition to violating Syria's sovereignty and territorial integrity, Israel's actions undermine efforts to build a new Syria at peace with itself and the region and further destabilize Syria at a sensitive time. It is essential that both Israel and Syria uphold the terms of 1974 Disengagement of Forces Agreement to preserve the ceasefire between both parties and refrain from any action that will further undermine it and the stability on the Golan.
Meanwhile, following news of a ceasefire, hundreds of Druze living in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights crossed the border into Syria, while Syrian Druze crossed into Majd al-Shams on Israeli-occupied territory to reunite with their families they have not seen for years. And for more on this, correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report. Take a look.
The United Nations Security Council held an emergency session on Syria after the deadly escalation in Soweto and a wave of Israeli airstrikes against military and government sites in the capital, Damascus. UN official Khaled Khiari warned that renewed violence threatens Syria's political transition. Israel defended its strikes as being necessary to protect Druze minorities, but Syria condemned them as a violation of sovereignty. Over 370 people have been killed, with UN officials raising concerns over extrajudicial killings. A fragile ceasefire has been announced between Syrian authorities and Druze leaders, but some factions have rejected it. Council members here at the UN urged de-escalation, accountability, and a return to the peace process. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
Now, moving on, a brutal escalation of conflict has plunged Ukraine into its bloodiest 24 hours as Russia claims devastating military gains.
Now, Russian Defense Ministry claims that over 1,000 Ukrainian troops were killed, and it also handed over dead bodies of about 1,000 Ukrainian soldiers to Kyiv. Our next story takes a close look at the war, which is now escalating by the hour. Take a look.
The battlefield is ablaze, a storm of steel and fire. Russian forces press their offensive, claiming a staggering victory in what Moscow describes as the most lethal day for Ukrainian troops since the conflict began. In a single 24-hour charge, Moscow says Kyiv lost 1,200 soldiers, the fiercest blow in recent memory. An independent verification remains impossible in the fog of war. On the same day, Russia handed over to Ukraine the bodies of 1,000 soldiers. This is part of an agreement reached at peace talks last month. Moscow says Ukraine handed over 19 killed Russian soldiers. On the front lines, the situation is dire for Ukraine. The thunder of multiple rocket launchers brings death and destruction. Ukrainian troops valiantly try to hold their posts and launch precision strikes to destroy the incoming Russian tanks. Kharkiv and Sumy are the focal points of the fighting. Russian forces have been hammering these locations mercilessly. In a significant strategic move, Russia asserts it has captured new areas in Donetsk, Kharkiv region and the southern Zaporizhzhia region. The Russian military accelerated its advances for a third consecutive month in June. Its territorial gains for that month were the biggest since November last year. Ukraine is anxiously waiting for the delivery of the promised weaponry. The NATO military leadership says it is actively working with Germany to send Patriot missile defense systems to Ukraine. The weapons are being delivered under a novel plan where European nations would be paying to the US, which would be selling these weapons. But now France, Italy and the Czech Republic have rejected funding weapon supplies, citing concerns over the economic toll on their populations. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Now, the White House has confirmed that US President Donald Trump has been diagnosed with a common and benign vein condition known as chronic venous insufficiency.
Now, doctors attending to Trump have, however, reassured that the condition doesn't pose a serious risk to the president's health.
Now, according to the White House, the president was evaluated after he noticed mild swelling in his lower legs and bruising on his hands. He was subjected to a comprehensive medical examination which revealed chronic venous insufficiency. The revelations come after widespread online discussions about the president's visibly swollen ankles, seen in particular at the recent FIFA Club World Cup final in New Jersey.
In recent weeks, President Trump noted mild swelling in his lower legs. In keeping with routine medical care and out of an abundance of caution, this concern was thoroughly evaluated by the White House medical unit. The president underwent a comprehensive examination, including diagnostic vascular studies. Bilateral lower extremity venous Doppler ultrasounds were performed and revealed chronic venous insufficiency, a benign and common condition, particularly in individuals over the age of 70. Importantly, there was no evidence of deep vein thrombosis or arterial disease.
Now, explaining Trump's medical condition, vascular surgeons at Michigan Medical School say that chronic venous insufficiency is a condition where damaged leg vein fails to keep blood flowing properly, and this is neither a life nor a limb-threatening condition.
Chronic venous insufficiency is a really common condition, particularly as we age. And what happens is you have valves in your veins that help to return blood to your heart. And over time, for a variety of reasons, those valves may fail, which can cause blood to pool in the legs. And a consequence of that can be leg swelling, it can be varicose veins, and in some more severe cases, patients can even get skin changes and ulcerations.
The White House also addressed concerns about Trump's bruised hand after reports claim that it often appeared to be covered up with makeup. The White House attributing it to minor soft tissue irritation from frequent handshaking and use of aspirin.
Additionally, recent photos of the president have shown minor bruising on the back of his hand. This is consistent with minor soft tissue irritation from frequent handshaking and the use of aspirin, which is taken as part of a standard cardiovascular prevention regimen. This is a well-known and benign side effect of aspirin therapy. And the president remains in excellent health, which I think all of you witness on a daily basis here.
Now, in a letter released by the White House, presidential physician Sean Barbella has said that Trump remains in excellent health despite his vein condition. The White House has stated that the president's condition is being closely monitored and treatment is expected to include compression socks, activity and possibly weight loss. And a massive €2 trillion budget proposal of European Union has received a fierce pushback from Berlin.
Now, this comes within 24 hours of the budget being floated. Germany has flatly rejected the plan, citing domestic budget increase.
Now, German government spokesman Stefan Cornelius has warned against a spending increase while national budgets are under pressure. Germany, that is the EU's largest economy, also objected a proposal to impose higher taxes on companies with turnovers above €100 million.
The European Commission unveiled the sweeping €2.3 trillion budget for the years 2008 to 2034. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen called it the most ambitious budget ever, framing it as a response to the growing threat from Russia.
The budget for 2028 to 2034. It is a €2 trillion budget for a new era. It is a budget that matches Europe's ambition, that confronts Europe's challenges, and that strengthens our independence. The budget is larger, it is smarter, and it is sharper.
Now, the package that is touted as the most ambitious in EU history is designed to boost Europe's competitiveness and defence. It proposes up to 100 billion euros for the reconstruction of war-torn Ukraine and introduces flexible funds to respond to future crises while rebuilding Ukraine, but opposition is already mounting.
Farmers across the bloc have also joined the criticism, with hundreds protesting outside the commissions in Brussels. They oppose proposed cuts to the EU's common agricultural policy, which would shrink farm subsidies from 387 billion to 300 billion euros. Agriculture lobby group labelled it a Black Wednesday for farmers.
Well, Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban also slammed the plan, saying Ukraine would get a massive funding boost while European farmers lose out.
But if Germany says the budget is too big, many in the EU Parliament say it doesn't go far enough. With just under 3 years until implementation, 27 member states must agree unanimously to give the spending plan a go-ahead. Now, over 69 people have been killed in a massive fire that broke out at a newly built mall in eastern Iraq.
Fire crews are currently addressing the damage at the scene in the Al-Quds city. Now, local authorities say that 11 people are still missing.
These are the images showing flames engulfing a 5-story building in Al-Quds overnight as firefighters tried to contain the blaze and reach people standing on the building's roof.
A fire broke out on the second floor, and some families on the ground floor were able to escape, but others perished. This place lacks occupational safety measures, and I don't know how it was approved to open. Therefore, we hold accountable all those who approved this building, especially since the residents have objections to it.
The mall, which had opened only a week back, contained a restaurant and supermarket. The blaze tore through the building while families were inside shopping and dining, trapping many people as the flames spread rapidly. Outside Al-Quds Hospital, the families of the victims gathered, desperately awaited any news about their loved ones.
Local authorities say the cause of fire is not yet known. The province's governor said initial results from an investigation would be announced within 48 hours.
And gunfire and explosions shattered the stillness in Mali's military base in Africa.
This as waves of insurgents from an Al-Qaeda-linked group stormed the camp, catching newly deployed soldiers off guard.
Malian troops, unfamiliar with the layout of the near-base Mali's southern border with Burkina Faso, scrambled for cover while others tried to flee into the arid bushes. Hours after the attack, videos circulated online showed jubilant fighters from Jamaat Nusrat al-Islam wal Muslimin in Jenin celebrating their victory as bodies of soldiers lay strewn around.
Since the crisis began, everything is ruined. There are no tourists coming, no foreigners coming to Mali. Before we used to travel, we also sold artisanal items here in Mali. Before we traveled, we also sold abroad, but since this crisis began, it's poverty because nothing works.
Now, the JNIM group claims that it has killed over 100 troops and showed around 20 soldiers who they said they were captured at the Bulkesi base, marking one of the deadliest attacks on military camps, outposts and towns across Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger in recent months.
In the bigger picture, the insurgent group claims to have killed at least 400 soldiers in Western Africa. A recent surge in attacks reflects a strategic shift by JNIM, founded 8 years ago by a veteran Tuareg Islamist. While the group is moving from rural guerrilla tactics to a broader campaign aimed at controlling urban centers and asserting political dominance in the Sahel region.
Aji Ghali, who has pledged allegiance to Al-Qaeda, leads a jihadist coalition including Al-Qaeda and the Islamic Maghreb, Al-Murabitun and Katiba Masina, which merged into JNIM in 2017. Experts say his goal is to impose Islamic rule across the Sahel and extend influence into coastal West Africa, which is a landmass twice the size of Western Europe with a population of around 430 million.
While the threat posed by Al-Qaeda-linked groups come at a time when regional governments are estranged from former Western military allies. Reports suggest that estimated JNIM strength is at between 6,000 and 7,000 fighters, making it the most powerful armed group in the region. The military regimes in Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger make a grim dilemma. Their legitimacy rests on promises to restore security, yet they continue to lose territory.
And with that, it's time now for a short break.
But don't go anywhere. On the other side of World DNA, India's Jammu and Kashmir Valley is grappling with drug abuse problem, with over 85% drugs reportedly being supplied from across the border. We're going to get you all the details on the other side of the show. Stay tuned.
Also on the other side, a team of archaeologists from the US, Canada and India have uncovered evidence of human settlement dating back 4,000 years in India's Karnataka.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Welcome back to World DNA. Thank you so much for staying with us. Lots lined up for you on this side of the show as well. Let's get started with the headlines first.
US President Donald Trump directs Attorney General Pam Bondi to produce any and all pertinent testimony given to the grand jury in the Jeffrey Epstein case, subject to approval, adds that the scam, which he claimed has been perpetuated by the Democrats, should end right now.
US designates Lashkar Proxy, the resistance front, which claimed responsibility for the Pahalgam terror attack, a foreign terrorist organization.
Syrian presidency accuses Druze fighters in Sweden of violating ceasefire by engaging in horrific crime against civilians. Warns against continued Israeli interference in the country's internal affairs, says it leads to further chaos and destruction.
Sorry.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel regrets loss of life in what it called a mistaken strike that hit Gaza's only Catholic church. Adds investigation is underway.
White House says President Trump has been diagnosed with the common benign vein condition following speculations about his heavily bruised hand and swollen legs.
Russian Foreign Ministry warns Moscow has the right to strike military facilities of countries that allow Ukraine to use their weapons to attack Russia.
Details of more than 100 Britons, including spies and special forces, included in a massive data breach involving thousands of Afghans, says UK media reports.
Heavy monsoon rain across Pakistan's Punjab province kills at least 63 people, injures nearly 300 in the past 24 hours, bringing the nationwide death toll from rain to at least 159 since late June.
Japan's inflation cooled slightly in June to 3.3% as rice prices eased from historic highs. But with core inflation rising and tariffs looming, economic uncertainty grows ahead of elections.
England produced a remarkable comeback to continue their title defence and reach semi-finals at the Euros. The Lionesses beat Sweden in a penalty shootout that stretched to 14 players after a 2-2 draw.
US has designated the Resistance Front, the group behind the April 22nd Pahalgam terror attack, as a foreign terrorist organization and specially designate global terrorist.
Now, the statement issued by the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio acknowledged the terror outfit as a front and a proxy of Lashkar-e-Toiba in a UN-designated terrorist group that is based in Pakistan.
Now, in a statement, Rubio said the designation demonstrates the Trump administration's commitment to protecting U.S. national security interests, countering terrorism, and enforcing President Trump's call for justice for the Pahalgam attack.
On the 22nd of April, terrorists descended down the Baisaran Valley in Pahalgam and opened fire at tourists in the area, killing 26 people. The attack sparked global outrage, with several countries, including the U.S., expressing solidarity with the country in the fight against terrorism. Trump had immediately dialed Prime Minister Narendra Modi after the attack, which he called a bad one, and conveyed condolences for the lives lost.
The TRF came into existence after the abrogation of Article 370 in Jammu and Kashmir in 2019. Not just the Lashkar-e-Toiba, its operations are also supported by Pakistan's intelligence agency, the ISI. Now, TRF's leadership includes Sajid Jad, Sajjad Gul and Salim Rahmani, all of whom are associated with the Lashkar-e-Toiba. In 2023, the Indian government had designated TRF as a terrorist organization, and a national investigation agency had declared Sajjad Gul as a terrorist and placed a bounty on him. The terror outfit has a specialized strike arm called the Falcon Squad, which is highly trained in precision-targeted killings and evasion tactics. Now, the terror outfit reportedly has a strong presence on social media platforms like Telegram, WhatsApp and Facebook, which it uses to recruit youth in Kashmir.
The group is responsible not only for terror attacks in Jammu and Kashmir, but is also involved in smuggling weapons and narcotics from Pakistan. And in news that's just coming in with regards to this latest development, this is the news that we have from India. India has reacted to the US designating the Resistance Front as a foreign terrorist organization, calling it yet another demonstration of counter-terrorism cooperation between the two countries.
Now, in a statement, India's embassy in the United States appreciated the Department of State's move. It highlighted that TRF is a proxy of Lashkar-e-Toiba and claimed responsibility for the April 22nd Pahalgam attack. The country reiterated zero tolerance for terrorism.
So this is the latest that we're getting right now. India has reacted to the US designating the Resistance Front as a foreign terrorist organization, calling it yet another demonstration of counter-terrorism cooperation between the two countries.
And following that, in a statement, India's embassy in the United States has appreciated the Department of State's move. It has highlighted that the TRF is a proxy of Lashkar-e-Toiba and has claimed responsibility for the April 22nd Pahalgam attack. The country has reiterated zero tolerance for terrorism.
For more on this story, we're now being joined by Siddhant Sibal, Assistant Editor Foreign Affairs, on the phone line with us. Siddhant, thank you so much for joining us. We were just discussing this. The reaction from the Indian side has come in. What can you tell us, Siddhant?
Well, an important reaction by the Indian side pointing to the counter-terror cooperation. And let me just point out to what has happened in past few months, I would say, when the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi traveled to United States in February. We saw the joint statement, the India-US joint statement that specifically talked about counter-terror cooperation and called on Pakistan to bring the perpetrators of 26/11 and the terror attack in Punjab to justice. the Pathankot terror attack. And also, just recently we saw the Quad joint statement where the foreign ministers of the Quad countries condemned the Pahalgam terror attack, and that was the first time that had happened, and essentially focused on counter-terror cooperation. In fact, Quad, the joint statement, if you look at all the joint statements since, I would say, the inception of Quad, there has been a strong component of counter-terror cooperation. And essentially, what has happened is that with the US listing the TRF as a terror group in its domestic laws, this will be a cue for other countries to also do so. Do expect more countries, especially the resistance front, on their terror list, and also that helps India make a case when it comes to its listing at the United Nations Security Council, even though for some time it will be difficult because Pakistan is a non-permanent member of the UNSC and also sits on their counter-terror body, the 1267 Sanctions Committee. But nonetheless, the ball has been moved, and the Pakistani reaction is also awaited because the Pakistani foreign minister had defended the terror group in the country's parliament and had famously said that it is because of the Pakistani endeavors that the group's name was not mentioned at the United Nations Security Council's condemnation on the Pahalgam terror attack.
Right. All right, Siddhant, thank you so much for bringing us the latest on this. We'll continue to track this.
All right, and moving on, India's Jammu and Kashmir Valley is grappling with a drug abuse problem.
The cases are only increasing by the day. Authorities say most of the users are suffering due to consumption of heroin.
Over 85% drug abusers use heroin, reportedly supplied from across the border. Now, Kashmir's rehabilitation center located in Srinagar says that there is 200% jump in arrival of patients. Official data reported 1.3 million people in the Union Territory are drug abusers. Now, the number has significantly risen from 0.6 million 3 years back.
Even more concerning is the dependency on heroin. It has become the most used drug with a 95% dependency rate among users. Heroin is taken via injections, which also increases the risk of other diseases such as hepatitis C. Reports say around 33,000 syringes are used daily by the drug abusers in Jammu and Kashmir.
Well, reports also suggest that 33,000 syringes are used daily by the drug abusers in Jammu and Kashmir, and the Jammu and Kashmir police have now enforced the Prevention of Illicit Traffic in Narcotics, Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act against notorious drug traffickers.
And for more on this, a special correspondent, Idris Loan, is following the story very closely and has sent us this report. Listen to this.
Jammu and Kashmir is grappling with massive increase in the number of drug abusers across the Union Territory. The researchers, and according to the official data, 85% of the drug abusers have now shifted to heroin, which has become one of the biggest challenges for the authorities to control, because most of the heroin that is being sold in Jammu and Kashmir is being sent from across the border, from Pakistan, from line of control, as well as from the international border. These consignments are mostly sent via drones to the bordering areas, and then they are spread across Jammu and Kashmir and other parts of northern India. With video journalist Firoz, Idris Loan for WION World is One.
Now, the ancient town of Maski in Karnataka state is back in the spotlight.
And this time for a discovery that could rewrite its history.
A team of archaeologists from the United States, Canada and India have uncovered evidence of human settlement dating back 4,000 years. The 2-month dig took place beneath Fort Hill near the historic Ashoka Edict site. They found tools, ornaments, pottery and even animal remains, signs of continuous human presence from the Neolithic age to the medieval period.
Now, among the discoveries are microlithic stone tools, beads made from shell and agate, and pottery with distinctive patterns. The remains of cattle, goat and buffalo provide clues about ancient diets and daily life. Well, Maski first made headlines in 1915 when archaeologists found a rock edict of Emperor Ashoka. Since then, several digs have confirmed its rich past. Now, this latest team, led by experts from Stanford, McGill and Noida International University, has collected samples for further study and was recently honored by local groups for their work.
Researchers are now urging communities and officials to help protect and preserve Maski's heritage for future generations.
And now the news, the stronger euro and latest tariff threats have added to the European Central Bank's disinflationary concerns.
But analysts say that it is not enough to justify a rate cut on 24th of July. Instead, they expect any rate action to come at the September meeting, which is more likely.
Now, with the June decision to cut the main policy interest rate to 2%, the ECB, though it said it was a good place, policymakers were hoping for some typical wait-and-see monetary policy over the coming months. But it was wishful thinking. The reality looks very different once again. In recent months, the euro's appreciation has dominated financial markets.
Since the start of the year, the euro has climbed roughly 15% against the US dollar. Even since the ECB's June meeting, the euro's effective exchange rate has risen another 2%. The stronger euro is now a clear concern for policymakers. The overall impact at the moment may seem modest. However, current exchange rates, if sustained, would mean the ECB's inflation forecast for this year and the next would be slightly lower than anticipated in June.
Now, there's another complication. President Trump's latest threat of 30% tariffs on European goods. In June, the ECB's baseline scenario assumed just a 10% tariff, and even the downside scenario only went up to 20%.
So 30% tariff would be more damaging to the Eurozone economy, even if European retaliation eventually pushed inflation higher. A wait-and-see approach remains the most probable course of action for the ECB next week. However, the ECB may not be done with the rate cut just yet. Now, the week gone by was a heavy, data-driven and crucial week for the global economy, with several top economies reporting their inflation data for the month of June.
Take a look at this next report as we present you with a snapshot of how the world's top economies performed. Take a look.
Trade uncertainties, geopolitical tensions and market expectations around AI severely impacted consumer sentiment in June. But inflation data provided some relief to consumers in the world's top economies. First up, we decode how the US economy performed on the inflation front. June consumer price index rose by 2.7% year over year, up from 2.4% in May. Monthly inflation ticked up 0.3%, driven by higher energy, food, housing and tariff-impacted sectors like appliances and furniture. Core inflation, excluding food and energy, held steady at 2.9%, and these figures suggest tariff spill-through is beginning to affect consumer prices, reducing the likelihood of an imminent rate cut by the Fed before September. After several months of mild deflation, China's CPI inflation returned to positive territory with a modest 0.1% year-over-year rise. Food prices persist in deflationary territory, but services and urban regions showed stabilization. Factory gate prices, however, continued their sharp decline, suggesting that China's economic recovery may still have a long way to go. India's retail inflation experienced a significant drop in June, plummeting to a 6-year low of 2.1% year-over-year. This notable easing was primarily driven by a substantial decline in food prices. Key contributors to this food price dip included vegetables, pulses, and meat and fish. The consistent decline in headline inflation is now below the Reserve Bank of India's target for 5 consecutive months and provides considerable room for further monetary easing, according to experts. Tokyo's headline CPI eased to 3.1% in June, down from 3.4% in May. while core inflation remained above the 2% BOJ target. Although utility cost cuts moderated inflation, underlying price pressures persist. Household inflation expectations stayed steady, signaling continued upward price momentum. Inflation cooled to 2% in June from 2.1% in May, aligning with the ECB's inflation target. And this marks the lowest rate since October 2024. Core prices eased modestly, helped by declining energy and food inflation, reinforcing expectations of continued euro area stability. June's inflation landscape presents a mixed picture for the world's 5 largest economies. The US shows rising inflation influenced by energy and tariffs. China edges out of deflation. Japan sustains above target core inflation. Germany hits target with cooling pressure. And India surprises with a 6-year low. Now, central banks face a balancing act, navigating trade-driven inflation while managing growth and labor dynamics. Continued vigilance on consumer prices and policy signals will define the global economic direction in the months ahead. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
All right, now let's shift our focus to the world of sports, where former world number 2 and 3-time Grand Slam finalist Ons Jabeur has announced a break from competitive tennis.
Fondly known as the Minister of Happiness, Ons Jabeur has said that she's been struggling to find joy on the court. In an emotional statement on social media, she said, and I'm quoting here, "For the past 2 years, I've been pushing myself so hard, fighting through injuries and facing many other challenges. But deep down, I haven't felt truly happy on the court for some time now. Tennis is such a beautiful sport, but right now I feel it's time to take a step back and finally put myself first, to breathe, to heal and to rediscover the joy of simply living."
Now, Jabeur, the first Arab woman to reach a Grand Slam final, has struggled with her form in recent months. She has not gone beyond the 3rd round at Grand Slams this season. She suffers from asthma and experienced breathing difficulties at this year's Australian Open. She was knocked out in the first round at Roland Garros. At Wimbledon, she retired mid-match due to injury and scorching heat. Now, she, who has dropped to world number 71, is the only player in the top 99 to have not entered next month's US Open. She did not indicate in her announcement when she would return to tennis.
Now on to news from the world of entertainment and showbiz. Italian fashion house Dolce & Gabbana brought high fashion to Rome this week with 2 catwalk shows set amid the city's famous historical sites.
The Milan-based luxury label held its Alta Moda show at the Roman Forum, presenting creations that paid tribute to the city's ancient history, landmarks, as well as the 1950s fashion. Take a look.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of World DNA. But before we go, we're going to leave you with all the climate stories which are making headlines across the globe. Thank you so much for tuning in.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
WION, India's global voice. The channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
I've been waiting for you.
As horror films rule the box office, we tell you all about this movie genre. Meet Grammy-winning composer Ricky Cage as he talks about Gandhi. And find out how Madonna is related to Lady Gaga. All this and much more with me, Diksha Bisla, on WION at these times.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. You're watching Beyond World is One. My name is Diksha Bisla. Let's start with the headlines. Indian Embassy in US reacts to the State Department designating the Resistance Front as a foreign terrorist organization. Calls it yet another demonstration of counter-terrorism cooperation between the two countries. Syrian state media reports Israeli strikes near Sweda, first attack on the area after Syrian government forces withdrew following clashes with local fighters. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel regrets the loss of life in what it called a mistaken strike that hit Gaza's only Catholic church, adds that investigation is underway. Russian Foreign Ministry warns Moscow has the right to strike military facilities of countries that allow Ukraine to use their weapons to attack Russia. US President Donald Trump directs Attorney General Pam Bondi to produce any and all pertinent testimony given to the grand jury in the Jeffrey Epstein case subject to approval, as the scam which he claimed has been perpetuated by the Democrats should end right now. White House says President Trump has been diagnosed with a common benign vein condition following speculations about his heavily bruised hand and swollen legs. California sues Trump administration challenging termination of more than $4 billion in federal grants for state's high-speed rail project. Heavy monsoon rains across Pakistan's Punjab province kill at least 63 people, injure nearly 300 in the past 24 hours, bringing the nationwide death toll from rains to at least 159 since late June. Japan's inflation cooled slightly in June to 3.3% as rice prices ease from historic highs. But with core inflation rising and tariffs looming, economic uncertainty grows ahead of elections. Felix Baumgartner, the man who broke the sound barrier in a record-setting skydive from the edge of space, has died in a paragliding crash in Italy. He was 56. Our top focus on WION at this hour. US has designated the Resistance Front, the group behind the April 22nd Pahalgam terror attack, as a foreign terrorist organization and specially designate global terrorist. Now, the statement issued by US Secretary of State Marco Rubio acknowledged the terror outfit as a front and proxy of Lashkar-e-Toiba, a UN-designated terrorist group that is based in Pakistan. Now, in a statement, Rubio said the designation demonstrates the Trump administration's commitment to protecting U.S. national security interests, countering terrorism, and enforcing President Trump's call for justice for the Pahalgam attack. Now, on April 22nd, terrorists descended down the Baisaran Valley in Pahalgam and opened fire at tourists in the area, killing 26 people. The United Nations Security Council condemned the attack in the strongest terms, but did not name the TRF. Also, did not refer to the group's linkages to the Pakistan's Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar said he pushed to omit the mention of TRF from the statement. Speaking in Pakistan's National Assembly on April 29th, Dar has revealed that Islamabad used its position as a non-permanent member of the Council to alter the language in the US proposed statement.
We oppose the mention of TRF at the UNSC statement condemning the Pahalgam terror attack. We refused to budge for 2.5 days. I got calls from global capitals, but I said that Pakistan will not accept it. You have to mention Jammu and Kashmir and delete the reference to TRF, and Pakistan's stance prevailed.
Nothing doing. Pakistan will not accept.
TRF came into existence after the abrogation of Article 370 in Jammu and Kashmir in 2019. Not just the Lashkar-e-Toiba, its operations are also supported by Pakistan's intelligence agency, the ISI. TRF's leadership includes Sajjad Gul and Salim Rahmani, all of whom are associated with the Lashkar-e-Toiba. In 2023, the Indian government had designated TRF as a terrorist organization, and the National Investigation Agency had declared Sajjad Gul as a terrorist and placed a bounty on him. The terror outfit has a specialized strike arm called the Falcon Squad, which is highly trained in precision-targeted killings and evasion tactics. Now, the terror outfit reportedly has a strong presence on social media platforms like Telegram, WhatsApp and Facebook, which it uses to recruit youth in Kashmir. The group is responsible not only for terror attacks in Jammu and Kashmir, but is also involved in smuggling weapons and narcotics from Pakistan. Now, for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report. Listen to this.
The U.S. State Department on Thursday officially designated the Resistance Front, or TRF, as a foreign terrorist organization and specially designated global terrorist. TRF, a known proxy of Lashkar-e-Taiba, claimed responsibility for the April 22nd Pahalgam attack in India that killed 26 civilians, marking the deadliest attack since the 2008 Mumbai terror strikes. The State Department says that the designation underscores the Trump administration's pledge to combat global terrorism and hold perpetrators accountable. At the United Nations earlier this year, Pakistan, backed by China, succeeded in removing TRF's name from a Security Council press statement condemning the Pahalgam attack. The original draft named the group, but Pakistan allegedly exerted diplomatic pressure as vice chair of the UN Security Council Counterterrorism Committee, despite the group claiming responsibility for the attack. While the final statement did condemn the violence, it ultimately stopped short of identifying TRF. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
All right, now let's shift our focus to West Asia, where even amid renewed efforts to reach a ceasefire deal in Gaza, Israel continues its onslaught across the Palestinian enclave. Israel and Hamas negotiations are taking part in truce talks since the 6th of July, discussing a US-backed proposal for a 60-day ceasefire that includes a phased release of hostages and Israeli troops withdrawal from parts of Gaza. Well, unceasing attacks by Israeli forces in recent weeks have killed hundreds of Gazans and injured thousands, putting enormous strain on the enclave's few remaining hospitals. Now, the United Nations has expressed alarm that children are paying the price of war. Findings say that at least 10 children lose one limb every day on average.
Where Palestinians are faced with an impossible choice to decide whether they will die of hunger or while they're queuing up for their food ration.
Do you evacuate one more time, forcibly displaced again and again, and get killed on the way? Or stay put and get killed where you are? Every decision they are making while we speak is a life and death decision. Every single day, every single hour, every single minute. But it is a Russian roulette with a bullet in almost every chamber.
Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni slammed deadly strikes on a Catholic church in Gaza, which killed 3 people, calling Israeli strikes on civilian infrastructure as unacceptable. Now, Italy added that no military action can justify Israel's actions, especially in a place of worship. Now, dozens of injured Palestinians were rushed to the hospital after Israeli shells hit Gaza's sole Catholic church. The Latin Patriarch, which oversees the Holy Family Church in Gaza, said that parish priest Father Gabriel Romanelli was among the injured in the attack.
We are displaced and currently taking shelter in the Latin church located in the Old City. This morning we were surprised by a strike on the church, a tank shell. Of course there were elderly are here, innocent civilians. My mother was wounded by shrapnel in her head. This attack is completely unjustified.
Israel's foreign ministry quickly responded to the incident, saying that it never targets religious sites and is looking into the matter, adding that Israeli authorities will publish the findings of its investigation independently. In other news, President Donald Trump has threatened to sue the Wall Street Journal after it published a report claiming Trump contributed a body letter to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein on his 50th birthday. Well, the purported letter by Trump to the convicted sex offender has surfaced amid ongoing conspiracy theories linking Trump to the convicted sex offender. In an interview with the Journal, Trump denied writing the letter or drawing the picture, calling it a quote-unquote fake Wall Street Journal story. Posting on his Truth Social account, Trump denied the claims, saying, "I have never drawn a picture in my life. I don't draw women. That's not my language. These are not my words." Well, hours after Wall Street Journal's bombshell report, Trump said that he had asked Attorney General Pam Bondi to seek unsealing of grand jury testimony related to the criminal prosecution of Jeffrey Epstein. The Wall Street Journal claims that Donald Trump allegedly drew an outline of a naked woman and included a lewd typewritten message in a birthday album gifted to Jeffrey Epstein. According to the newspaper, the letter was sent at the request of Epstein's friend Ghislaine Maxwell for Epstein's 2003 birthday celebration. The report states that the letter, bearing Donald Trump's name and reviewed by the Journal, is bawdy and similar to other entries in the album. If the report holds true, the letter would have been written 16 years before the U.S. Justice Department charged Epstein, who died in 2019 during Trump's first term in office. In another update, the White House has clarified that President Trump is not in favor of appointing a special prosecutor in the Epstein case. This is after Trump allies such as far-right activists Laura Loomer and Rep. Lauren Boebert have been